Several reports suggest that the Washington Post is receiving funds from foreign governments to publish sponsored articles. One America's Christian Rose has more on the attempts at ideological subversion of the U.S.
The Washington Post has recently intensified its attacks against core American values and conservative leaders. This destructive activity includes the paper's attacks against Alabama Senate candidate Judge Roy Moore ahead of the crucial election. Several reports reveal the Washington Post receives money from foreign governments by publishing what it calls advertising supplements.
I believe there are several newspapers that do run these inserts. I think China has one as well. And I do think that people, subscribers to the Washington Post and the New York Times and other places that run these things, can differentiate between the news that is in the paper proper and the news that is in the Russia, China, so on and so forth insert.
One of the supplements, Russia Beyond, is part of the official media outlet of the Russian government called Rossiyskaya Gazeta, or RG, and provides the Kremlin's viewpoint on the matters of politics, the economy and culture. Which means the Washington Post is conveying the official position of the Russian government to the American public. The Washington Post's supplement, Russia Beyond, has its office in Moscow in the same building as RG. That building happens to be the former headquarters of the once celebrated official mouthpiece of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, the Pravda newspaper. This, as news channel RT America recently had to register as a foreign agent, despite the fact that RT's sources of funding are not limited to the Russian government alone.
I also broke at the Washington Post the story of how, this is a few years ago, the advertising side of the paper was putting the arm on the magazine to push content in a certain direction.
During the Cold War, the Washington Post was widely regarded as Pravda on the Potomac in reference to the main Soviet newspaper. In the mid-1970s, the Washington Post was instrumental in shaping the New Left movement in American politics, which determined the political views of Hillary Clinton as well as many other figures in the contemporary Washington establishment and the deep state. According to some reports, the New Left movement in the US was encouraged and sponsored by Soviet intelligence services as part of the so-called ideological subversion of the United States.
What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
The Washington Post, continuing this long-standing tradition, raises questions of whether the Washington Post itself should register as a foreign agent. At the same time, the present-day Pravda on the Potomac seeks to preserve power of the deep state, successors of the New Left, to the disadvantage of the American people. However, the Washington Post's ideologically aggravated attacks against Judge Roy Moore, as well as President Trump and his reforms, are bound to fail and will go down in history as the last pathetic scraps of the far left's ideological subversion. Christian Rose, One America News.